What's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of the FRS build. Today I'm going to be modifying the subframe so that it can accept an S13 hydraulic steering rack. And we're going to be using the FDF custom bracket that they send with the power kit. So I'm going to show you guys and walk through the step-by-step process of modifying the subframe to get this bracket to fit. We're going to be getting rid of the electronic steering, going with the S13 hydraulic rack. This adapts to that, and we'll show you what measurements you got to take and where this fits and everything like that. There's not really instructions that come with the kit, so it's kind of, you got to eyeball it and take some measurements of where the knuckle sits, the FDF knuckle sits, and where the tie rod needs to be, but we'll get into that. So let's get started tearing the subframe down, and we'll move on to the next step. Well, that was obviously easy. There's only two bolts that hold the rack in. That one and that one. Now with this kit, like I said, you get this bracket from FDF. So it comes in raw because you need to weld it, obviously. But they don't give you any instructions, but they do provide you with some alignment points. So I'm assuming that this will bolt up to here, and then this is all that I need to remove. So I gotta come in here, cut this out, smooth that, and then I'm assuming I'll need to basically take that same line across the top here to fit this. So I'm gonna take a little bit at a time, just so that way I can make sure I'm doing this right and fitting this exactly where it needs to go, so that way I don't end up cutting something that I'm not supposed to, and then I have to come back and fabricate some sort of other bracket to fix what I did. So we'll just, like I said, we'll just cut a little bit, we'll mark some off, cut a little bit, mark some off, cut a little bit, and just keep going. All right. So I think I got my line all set based off of where this mounts to here, and I just used a paint pen, but it's not the best. It's kind of old, so it's not a perfect line. Anyways, so I think it's just going to come straight across here. I use the straight edge to follow this line, and I think that this is what we need to cut out. But like I said, I'm going to start trimming back here. Obviously this needs to come off, but once I get up here, I'm going to start kind of trimming up here just to see and test fit and do all that. So let's just keep going. Alright, update time. So I've been grinding away for a couple minutes now. I came across here, like I said, I was gonna just be on the inside of my line a little bit, just so I can be cautious. And then I started to cut this out just so I could see where this bracket needs to fall. And you can see that if it's bolted up along there and where it's going to come down, all that needs to come out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to follow this line and just cut right across here, and then take this section out. And I'll probably need to move down even further, but again, I'm just being cautious. So yeah, I think think that's the next step. These will get cut out, and then once we get closer, I can start test fitting more and just keep moving on. Another check-in. I've got most of this cut away and grinded down. I'm working on this area right now because when this is in here, you can see that it's not all the way flush to where it needs to bolt up. And by looking under here, you probably can't see it, but it's touching there and it's causing it to push up. So I'm gonna trim this area out so this part of the bracket can sit down in there. I've already tried to grind away a lot of this hump and everything, but it just wasn't doing it. And you got to grind away these sections, both sides, because they hit the bracket, and keep it from sitting against this. So I need to, like I said, I need to cut this out. And unfortunately, like I didn't want to do, I cut this a little too far down, but I might be able to plate these sections. So I'm gonna cut this out and then I'll show you guys what it looks like. Hopefully this solves the non-flushness issue. So once I get that done, I'll show you guys what it looks like, and then we'll keep going from there. Alright, I think I got it to where it should be, but man, this was not easy. And again, FDF doesn't send you any instructions, so a lot of this is open for interpretation. Obviously, the bracket, you want it to get as flush as possible. So I'll show you with the bracket on. It looks pretty flat. You know, there's a little bit of play in here, but I don't really want to start cutting away like too much stuff. I'm already really nervous with how much I cut out of this. But anyways, I think a little bit of flex with this thing will be all right once it's bolted down, and then I can weld it all in and everything. But let me show you. I'm going to show you this without the bracket. And don't judge me, but this is what I felt like I had to do to get this thing to sit as flush as I could. So I remember I was grinding these out to sit flat, and it just would not sit flat. So I cut these out, and I'm going to fill these back in from the back side. But yeah, so I had to cut this whole thing out. I had to grind this thing down a little bit more. I had to cut, there's 2 holes right here. I had to cut these out because of this welded on nut. So that had to go. But yeah, I'm not I'm not super thrilled with having to do this. And I can't really give you guys any measurements because it's just kind of, like I said, it's just cut it away until this thing sits flush or close to flush up against this. So I hope that this kind of helps, somebody out there that's trying to do this, and can reference this and just say, oh yeah, mine looks like that, or mine doesn't look like that. Maybe you found a better way to do it. But I just kind of wanted to document what it takes to actually put this thing on here, and it's quite a bit of work. Now I still have to weld it in, and then I got to go back and repair anything that I overcut and strengthen this thing back up. So I'm just gonna keep plugging away. I think I might call it a night and then pick this back up tomorrow. So we'll just continue this video, and the next part will be me welding this up. Alright, I'm back at it today. I went ahead and put the subframe back in the car. I haven't welded it up yet, but I noticed that when I started cutting out a lot of material that the subframe started to bow in, and I wanted to make sure that before I welded it, everything was in the right spot and I wouldn't have anything misaligned when it went back into the vehicle. So I went ahead and put it back in the car here. You can see that I've got the subframe, all mounted, and the steering rack relocation bracket just bolted in and clamped down here, so that way I can get ready to go ahead and tack it in. So yeah, I wanted to do this just to make sure that I didn't get any sort of misalignment or weird flex when I welded it, and just to make sure that everything lines up. So I'm gonna go ahead now and start tacking everything in really good, so that way I can take this back out of the vehicle, weld it on the bench, and then put it back in the car. Okay, I got the subframe all welded up. Take a look at it there. Now, I'm not a professional welder, but I think I did okay. I'm making some plates here to cover up these gaps from where I had to overcut. So I got a bunch of little ones to fill in these spots, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, and after that we are done with this thing, aside from painting it. But as far as the fabrication goes, that'll be it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up the plating and welding and show you guys the final product. Subframe is plated and I got the rack installed, so I'm going to show you guys what that looks like here. It looks pretty good. Pretty happy with how this turned out. So when you guys are doing this, you want to make sure that you cut enough away so that way you can have room for your fittings. So you got to make sure you've got enough clearance here. Try to avoid cutting into the actual motor mount surface too much. So I got as close as I could with this one. This one I was able to stay a little bit further away because of the bracket. You can see in here these notches are where this part of the rack fits into. I may end up grinding this down a little bit on the rack. This is just a test rack. I got a new one coming, but I might grind some of this down. I want to be able to shift this as far over as I possibly can, so that way I have room for the sicky headers that get real close to the steering column. So it fits fine with the electric rack, but the rack relocation, pushes this forward more. So Sicky says that their headers won't work with like a Wise Fab or something like that that requires the rack to be relocated. So I've talked to a couple different people that have done this, but not specifically an S13 rack, but like the IS rack or the E46 rack. But they tend to push the rack over about an inch, so that way it'll clear. So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing, but I wanted to give myself that little bit of extra space. So like I said, I think I might grind this down so that way I can shift it over just a little bit more. I already have it pushed as far as I possibly can right now in the state that the bracket comes in. But yeah, so this thing's all done. I need to, well, it's all done in terms of welding and fabrication, like I said earlier. I need to paint this, probably use some sort of durable enamel or something like that. I'm not going to send it out for powder coating because I don't really care that much, but probably just paint it black again. So after this, goes in the car, test fit the engine, all that stuff, pull that out, and then paint the bay and the interior. So yeah, moving along here. Weather's starting to get a little bit better, so I can be out in the shop a little bit more. Parts should be rolling in here within the next couple weeks, but yeah, I'm just going to keep plugging along on whatever I can and hopefully get this thing done in a timely fashion. But I really appreciate you guys checking the video out and sticking through all of this stuff. And like I said, I really hope that this specific video helps somebody out, just because there was a lot of fabrication and there's not a lot of information out there on this. So if you can use it, I'm glad I can help. So don't forget to like, subscribe. I'll make sure that I throw any links for anything in the description. And yeah, we'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.